Well, you're welcome back to the channel. And if you're a young person out there and hears the word conservatism, and the only thing that it reminds you of is a bunch of old white people who wants to take us back or even keep us stuck in some old ways of cruelty, then it's time for us to learn. And stay with me, let's examine history to see if conservatism should have any place in today's society. And very quickly, what is conservatism? It's a compelling political idea that emphasizes the preservation of traditional institutions, practices, and moral values. So I'd like to imagine it as ground ancient trees with roots stretching deep into the earth with wide variety of branches of ideas. And of course, it is fairly resistant and sometimes overly resistant to rapid change. Most conservatives would say they're not resistant to change. Most of them would say they're open to change. However, they would like it to be gradual evolution in a fear of radical destabilized society. And how did conservatism even become so popular? Let's take a deep dive back into history. So picture back the 18th century, a time of great political and intellectual enlightenment. There was a great revolutionary time taking place in France, which was shaking every known established foundation of Western world, or at least in part. And this led to less regard for the king and the church, which prior to this was the main source of authority to help maintain laws and order. So seeing the chaos going and taking place in Europe, a very thoughtful British statesman who was named Edmund Burke, who was also a philosopher, proposed that it would be nicer for a society to evolve slowly and organically, and he warned that an abrupt change could give birth to anarchy and tyranny. After the idea was accepted in the 19th century, conservatism started to spread across Europe. The rapid change and changing world order carried across from previous century sparked a reaction from among conservative leaders who sought to preserve status quo and protect societies from the flame of revolution. And this led to different nations adopting conservatism to fit its own unique cultural and historical context. So for instance, in the United States, conservatives became closely held to principles of limited government and individual liberty, mainly because of the rugged nature of the early American settlers and their industrious nature who just wanted individual independence and a free market economy to thrive. Meanwhile, in Europe at the same time, the goal of conservatives was focused on preserving the monarchy and the established church. In the 20th century though, there was a significant change in the conservative ideology, particularly in the United States, arguably because of the Cold War, which was primarily between communism and capitalism. And we can deep dive into that in another video coming soon. So please subscribe, like this video, and show me some love by commenting in the comment section. So back to it. During the Cold War, the president of the United States, Ronald Reagan, became a shining light for a free market capitalism, a limited government, and promotion of traditional values. And this came with a rise in religious right, infusing conservatism politics with Christian moral values. At about the same time, conservatism in Europe has moved its focus from fight to preserve the monarchy in the church to a new era of fight against globalization and increased immigration. It became an idea of defending national identity and cultural heritage. Conservative politicians started advocating for policies that would protect the society from perceived threat of what was known as cultural dilution and economic instability. Now, how about today? Conservative ideologies still have a vibrant and influential political force worldwide, and though there might have been some adjustment to interpretation over the century, the core principle still remains. Today, politicians on the conservative eyes are still advocating for policies like tax cut, deregulation, protection of the Second Amendment. And yeah, honestly speaking, those guys really loved your gun like they loved your dog. And some of them still uphold traditional values and affinity towards stricter immigration control and laws that prioritized the citizens. Hence, you would hear stuff like American First. However, issues like economic inequality in a very large scale can affect negatively the society. It's one of many issues that conservatives pay less attention to, mainly because they were argue that in a free market, individual liberty would equate to individual access to resources necessarily for wealth creation. Still, there is a much gap between the rich and the poor, say those living in the towering skyscrapers and those who are struggling in some neighborhoods. And too many people on the downside of the economic class might lead to a revolution, which is the main idea behind why conservatism became popular in the first place. So far, from everything we know, I think the original idea of conservatism was intended to preserve the known way of life, economic freedom, and individual liberty. And this doesn't seem to me to be the unique values at all. So let us know what you think in the comment section, and until I see you in the next video, stay awake and stay curious.